Hey everybody, this is Anthony with Anthony's Horror and More, and today I want to talk about the movie True Romance, which I actually just watched for the first time a few days ago. You got the nice Arrow box set right here. Very nice. It's got the steelbook inside. Very cool. All the fancy schmancy stuff in there. Comes with a couple posters, comes with a bigger poster and a smaller poster. Just a really beautiful set. Also comes with a nice booklet. Of course, you get the Arrow booklet. And the poster. And then you get like another little poster and you get some art cards. You get a nice little sticker. Some cool inside artwork. And then you got these nice cards. Yeah, you get the little, small little poster right there. Then you get a bunch of these cool little postcards. Different scenes in the movie, which is badass. Very cool, very cool. So lots of cool stuff. It's a really nice set. I mean, I got this box set here. I got this for like $33. You know, really cheap. It's on Amazon. I think it's still on Amazon, or you can go to Barnes and Noble. You know, I would encourage people to go to Barnes and Noble. You know, pay like it's like $35 there. You know, because they cut the price in half for the Arrow sale. I don't know if that Arrow sale is still going on, but check out your Barnes and Noble because you know it's like 50% off all Arrow stuff if that sale is still going on. And yeah, you know. Otherwise, I don't know, try Amazon. They might still have the deal going, but I just couldn't pass that up. I mean, I know Quentin Tarantino wrote this movie, so that was like all I needed to know to go buy it. And I was like, oh, Quentin Tarantino is like easily in my top 5 directors of all time, so there's no question. I'm like, oh, I'll go buy that. I can't believe I missed it. It's definitely my type of movie. I don't know. I missed it. But yeah, I just wanted to have a discussion on it. Really, it's not really a review or anything. It's just kind of a discussion. Um, I just really, I love the movie. I really did. It was great. I mean, it really was. I give it a 10 out of 10. I give it a perfect score. It really is that good, you know. And there's a lot of hype around this movie, you know. And I was just like, well, Quentin Tarantino, I mean, yeah, I can believe it, you know. I mean, I love Reservoir Dogs, The Hateful Eight, Pulp Fiction, you know. I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's amazing. You know, and then I watched it and I was just blown away. I forgot, like, how good of a writer Quentin Tarantino is. You know, I'm like, God, his writing is just so amazing. Because, you know, I haven't seen, I mean, you know, his last movie was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which was great. I really liked it. That's a movie that actually gets better with rewatching it. With, you know, each rewatch, you know, it gets a little bit better. Because the first time I watched it, I thought it was okay. But then after that, every subsequent viewing got better and better for me. But this movie I just loved right off the bat. It just, you know, it's a perfect, like, mesh or amalgam or whatever, you know, of just, like, you know, comedy, drama, action, just everything. It has it all. That's why Quentin Tarantino is so good, because, you know, he fuses all these things together so seamlessly. And this movie is no exception. I love the beginning of it, you know. You got Christian Slater. He's trying to pick up this girl in the bar. You know, he wants to go see, you know, he wants to go see a Bruce Lee movie, you know, and it's his birthday and he's just trying to get out and he wants to go see this like Bruce Lee marathon or whatever. And, you know, the chick says no or whatever. So he just goes by himself. And then the beautiful Patricia Arquette shows up, you know, and you know, makes a little play to like sit next to him, you know, and strikes up a conversation with Christian Slater in the theater, and she's she's really into him. She's really into the movie, all that stuff, and then they go back to Christian Slater's apartment. They have some sex. You get some good nudity. You get to see Patricia Arquette naked. It's nice. you know, and then you find out that she was actually hired by his, by Christian Slater's friend that he works with. She was hired. She's a call girl, and it was just like a gift. And my favorite thing about this scene is Christian Slater, when because she tells him, because she feels bad because they had such a great night and everything. And she's like, look, your friend hired me. I'm a call girl. And he's like, oh, okay. And he just doesn't give a shit. And I just love that response. He just doesn't care. He's like, well, look, I figured it was too much to ask. I mean, you love Bruce Lee movies. You love comic books, because he takes her to like his comic book shop that he runs. And she's acting like she's into all these comic books and stuff. And then she's just into everything he's into. And he's just like, well, yeah, it was, I figured it was too good to be true, but I still had an awesome time, and, I enjoyed hanging out with you and having sex with you and all this stuff, and it was like, he was just completely cool with it. He's like, yeah, it was a great birthday, I loved it, and they end up staying together, because she tells him, well, it wasn't all bullshit, I actually really like you, that's why I'm letting you know, I'm telling you the truth, because I actually really like you, and I just thought that was so refreshing, that kind of writing. Because if they did that today, I mean, they wouldn't write anything like that today, They really wouldn't. Like, I can't believe you tricked him into having sex and you lied about who you are, blah, 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 blah. Like it would just never happen today. So I love that. I love that whole opening. That was great. And then the chemistry between them is just so good. I just love their chemistry. It's seamless. I mean, you can tell. I don't know if they hung out a lot or not before this. I'm sure they did. Kind of got to know each other a bit or whatever. But the chemistry is definitely there. And you find out that Christian Slater's character, she quits her job as a call girl. She says, she only did it like 3 times. She said, and she's got like this dickhead of a pimp. Played by what's his name? I'm gonna look him up. Gary Oldman. He plays Drexel Spivey in the movie. Yeah, and Drexel's hilarious, right? He's just this pimp with a fucking like messed up eye or whatever, and he's got like scars all over his face, and his teeth are all messed up. He's got like that, like, I can't remember if it's like a grill, or if he's got just like those fake gold teeth and silver teeth. I don't know. He's got dreads. I mean, he just looks batshit crazy. Gary Oldman loves that kind of like method acting and that kind of really getting into the role and everything. So Christian Slater's got like this kind of, he's like, he finds out that like, this Drexel guy was a dick to her, and, he's kind of abusive to some of the girls and stuff like that. So, Christian Slater's like looking in the mirror, and then all of a sudden his idol Elvis shows up, like this like fake Elvis, this like in his head it's real, but obviously there's no one really there, but he idolizes Elvis, so like it's like his subconscious talking to him, and he, Elvis is telling him like, you got to go defend your woman, you got to go take what's yours, you got to go like whoop his ass, basically, like nobody lays their hands on your girl and gets away with it, and all this stuff is going through his head. So he goes there, he takes a gun, he goes up to I'm sorry, I should say spoiler. This is a spoiler review of the film. I'm gonna spoil the whole damn thing. So yeah, spoiler. I meant to say that at the beginning, but yeah, spoiler alert for this. But yeah, so he goes there, brings a gun, ends up killing Drexel, the pimp, and it's a great scene. It's really well done, really well shot too, and great like action and everything too. It's very bloody and very Quentin Tarantino-ish. Tony Scott directed this, but it really does, because it's Quentin Tarantino wrote it, so it feels like his movie for sure. And I just he ends up, Christian Slater goes in there. Christian Slater's character's name is Clarence, by the way. Clarence goes in there, kills Drexel, kills like his bodyguard, and he steals like this whole suitcase full of cocaine. And then he goes back, to Patricia Arquette, who her name is Alabama in the movie. So, Clarence goes back to Alabama, shows her like, hey, he got all these, drugs, all this, suitcase full of coke or whatever, and he wants to go sell it, and he wants to, them to have this great fun-filled life and adventure together and all this stuff. He just has to find a way to, unload it. And it's just like, it's just so crazy because it's like, oh my God, you were expecting him to go in there and kill Drexel and stuff, but you weren't expecting him to come back with like a suitcase full of coke and all this stuff. So it's just so crazy. Yeah. And then you get like this scene, with him and his father. Clarence's father is Dennis Hopper, and he's, asking his father to like look into everything that happens to make sure the cops, because Dennis Hopper, his father's a cop, like an ex-cop. I mean, he's like just like a security guy now, but he used to be like like a detective or police officer or whatever. So he looks into it and he tells his son that he's in the clear. And then the main he's kind of the main villain, but he's only in this one scene, but his henchmen are throughout the movie. But the main villain is Christopher Walken, who is only in this one scene. And, Christopher Walken's character ends up meeting up with Dennis Hopper later on in the movie after Clarence and Alabama have already left. And, Christopher Walken's just this big mafioso type guy, but he's not even the head mafia guy. He's just, he's like this, the second in command or whatever. And we never actually meet the big guy on top. But yeah, Christopher Walken, and he like ties up Dennis Hopper, Clarence's dad, to a chair, and tortures him and all this stuff, and to try to get like the information, like, because he wants to get his his cocaine back. So Christopher Walken's torturing him and everything, and it's just, they have this really good exchange back and forth about like Sicilians and like how they get their dark skin, their dark hair, and their dark eyes, all this stuff. And it's just this whole scene, which Quentin Tarantino apparently said is like one of the greatest things he's ever written. You could never do this scene today. For those of you who watched it, you know what scene I'm talking about, between Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, and it's just it's so funny. The whole scene's funny. Even that they were saying that like they were laughing throughout it. They had to take so many different takes to get it down right, and it's just so funny. Because Dennis Hopper's just telling the story or whatever, and he pisses Christopher Walken off to the point where he just kills Dennis Hopper because he realizes he's not going to get the information he needs. And then it's funny because then Christopher Walken sees on the fridge, it says exactly where Clarence is going, because he left like a note on the fridge saying, okay, we're going to LA, or whatever, and it's like written on the fridge. So he didn't even have to torture Dennis Hopper or anything. It was literally written on the fridge the whole fucking time, which is hilarious. So yeah, so that's a great scene. You could never do that scene today because it's just got too much, in our climate and stuff. It's funny, but people would lose their shit if you had that scene today. I encourage you to look it up if you've never watched the movie. I'm sure if you just look up Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, torture scene, or just true romance, Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken scene or whatever, it'll come right up. Yeah. So then, and then that was it. Christopher Walken, that was his only scene in the whole movie, but he's fantastic in it. It's only like a few minutes long, but it's so good. And then his henchmen, Christopher Walken's henchmen, go on to, to look for the drugs and stuff, and try to hunt these guys down. And it's just such an interesting, it's such a like crazy movie. It just never stops. It just keeps going and going. Um, so then Clarence and Alabama are obviously trying to offload the drugs, so they try to get in contact with this big um, director, producer type guy, and they got to go through all this hassle just to try to talk to this guy. And meanwhile, the mob guys end up finding out what hotel they're staying at, and Alabama's there, and you get this really great scene between Patricia Arquette and God, I just had his name in my head, and then it just went right out of my head. What's his name? James Gandolfini from The Sopranos. Tony Soprano. So you get this really great, James Gandolfini plays like the head henchman of their, little mob gang or whatever, and he tortures Alabama, Patricia Arquette's character. And, she's just getting the shit kicked out of her, and she's not going to tell him where the drugs are. And, I guess James Gandolfini got really into this role. From what I was reading online, I guess he didn't like wash himself or anything. He wore dirty clothes and all this stuff. He was really like doing the whole method actor type thing. And, he's beating her up in this scene. She's getting tossed around like a rag doll. She gets put through this fucking glass door, this glass door in the bathroom and all this shit. And it looks really bad for her until, he gets too cocky, and she gets, he's like, okay, I'll let you have one hit. Go ahead and hit me, do whatever go ahead and try or whatever. And she ends up taking this corkscrew thing that she had like this little pocket knife, and she takes like the little corkscrew part out of it and stabs him in the foot with it, and then just starts wailing on him and all this stuff. And she ends up shooting him like a bunch of times with the shotgun and all this stuff. But I guess, from what I was reading, I guess James Gandolfini actually wanted her in real life to like stab him through the foot with the corkscrew. Like, that's how method he was trying to be, from what I read. And that's just crazy. It's like, oh my God, dude, no. Like, they wouldn't allow it to go that far. But I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, oh my God. you actually want this guy, you actually want her to stab you through the foot for real with a corkscrew. That's crazy to me. But like Shia LaBeouf, he's pretty method too. He's done, I know, like in the movie Fury, he like really cut his like cheek right there or whatever, and really made himself bleed in the movie and stuff. So some people are just really method. They want to get into it, and that's back when James Gandolfini, I don't think he was really known for anything yet or anything. I don't believe so. So, he's probably just trying to prove himself. Like, I'm a serious actor, So that whole scene was just crazy. But I guess in order to get Patricia Arquette in the mood, like for like these really emotional scenes, like the scene where I was talking about where James Gandolfini is just beating the fucking shit out of her, and she's just like laughing in his face, and it's really a great scene. And I guess Tony Scott was saying, he was saying that he would give her this thing. It's called the Persuader, is what he calls it, and he would just slap her across the face, to get her in that emotional state. And throughout the course of filming, I guess she would go up to him and ask, like, I need a persuader, and he would just like bitch slap her across the face, to get her like, in that state of mind where she needed to be. Once again, that would never happen today or whatever, but hey, I mean, it obviously got you what you needed, and it worked. I mean, she's phenomenal in the movie. She really is. Patricia Arquette does an amazing job, and she's super cute throughout it too. I mean, it's just like, it's like such a perfect mixture. It's just great acting and just everything. So yeah, so then they there's a lot of fun facts about this movie. It's really interesting. Like the scene that I was talking about before, where Dennis Hopper is being tortured by Christopher Walken and his gang. There's a scene right before Christopher Walken kills um, Dennis Hopper's character. He's pointing the gun at him, and I guess Dennis Hopper didn't want the gun pointed directly at his head because he's like, well, what if something happens? Which obviously in recent times, I mean, we've seen stuff like this happen. We've definitely seen actors and people get seriously injured and stuff from that because they think they think there's nothing in the barrel, and then it turns out there is. And that we've seen that time and time again. So he's like, yeah, I don't want that. And Tony Scott, the director, he's like, look, it's fine, it's perfectly safe. Give me the gun. And he takes the gun, and it's a real gun. And they just load it with, fake rounds and fake charges and stuff. And he put it to his head and he pulled the trigger, and I guess there was a charge in there. So it actually legit hit him in the head, like the charge or whatever, and he fell immediately to the floor and he was bleeding. And Dennis Hopper's like, yep, and that's exactly why. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly what he said, but he's like, yeah, that's why I don't want the fucking, even if it's a prop gun, I don't want to put up to my head. And Tony Scott was obviously fine, they treated him and stuff, like it wasn't, but it knocked him out to the floor and he was bleeding. So it was like things like that do happen. You got to be really, really careful. It's not a joke. Yeah, so that was another interesting tidbit. There's a lot of cool stuff. I was reading about this movie because after I watched it, I was just so interested. I'm like, God, what a cool movie. There's just so many crazy things that happen on set. I just thought were so interesting. I'm trying to think of what else there was. Oh yeah, Brad Pitt's in this movie as Floyd, and he just plays the roommate of one of the other characters, and he's just kind of like the stoner guy or whatever. But apparently, I guess he improvised a lot of his own lines throughout the movie. Because like I said, he was only in a few scenes, but I guess they let him just kind of roll with it. And he was hilarious. Brad Pitt, I mean, God, you could really see oh yeah, this guy's gonna be a star. You could just tell. Even that, you can just, he's just got that natural laid back kind of attitude, and it's just so, it's just so charming, and yeah, Floyd was hilarious. I loved Floyd. Every time somebody came in, you think, oh God, they're gonna the mob guys would come in, you're like, oh no, they're gonna torture poor Floyd. And it's Floyd just completely gave him the information without even, because he's a stoner, he doesn't even realize who these guys are. He's just telling them oh yeah, they're at this hotel and blah 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 blah. It's so funny every time he just gives them up, and they have no clue that he's giving them up or anything like that, because they're back at another location. It's so funny every time. And they kind of leave what happens to Floyd ambiguous. You don't really know. Did the mob guys kill him after they got the information, or did they just let him be? I like to think they just let him be, and he's all good. That's what I like to think. Oh yeah, Val Kilmer. I saw that Val Kilmer was in this movie, and I'm like, who the fuck did Val Kilmer play? Because I'm like, who was he in the movie? And apparently he played Elvis. That because they never show Elvis's face. He's just kind of in the background. He's only in a couple scenes, but I guess Val Kilmer does a hell of a Elvis impersonation or whatever. So they had him play Elvis, and I was like, oh wow, that's cool. I had no idea. So that was Val Kilmer acting as Elvis. Who's kind of telling Christian Slater in his head to do all sorts of crazy stuff. So that was really interesting, I thought. And then, yeah, there were so many fun little factoids about this movie that I was reading about that I just thought were so interesting. I don't know, people probably don't give a shit, but I just think I think it's kind of fun. Yeah, I think, what else? God, there was something else I was going to say too. That, yeah, I'm just kind of doing this off the top of my head, obviously. I don't know. I just wanted to talk about the movie. Um, but apparently, oh, that was the other thing. Apparently, Tony Scott, used Quentin Tarantino's like scripts or his story basically verbatim, except for the ending when they get to the end sequence and they have that big shootout and Christian Slater gets shot in the fucking eye, and you think he's dead. Apparently he was supposed to die in Quentin Tarantino's story, but Tony Scott felt like the one change he wanted to make was he wanted them to have like this happy ending. Um, and I like the happy ending. I do. I'm glad. I like that they both ended up surviving. They both ended up getting the money, and they went on to like live happily ever after. I really like that. I thought that was a better ending. I can see why. Apparently, some people were calling him a sellout and all this stuff. Like, you wanted to have. I'm like, I don't know. I think that's good because the movie's called True Romance. Like, and I get it. They had a true romance, but I kind of like that they live on happily ever after because most of the time, even though they're kind of the protagonists of the story, but they're also kind of the villains in a lot of way. I mean, they're not necessarily like great people. What they're doing is illegal and it's all that stuff, but um, they're not necessarily awful people or anything. So you do want them to have like a happy ending at the end, or at least I did. I was rooting for them to have a happy ending. So I'm glad that Tony Scott changed that. I really am. I'm glad he decided to switch things up, and just change that one little. He said other than that though, he kept everything else the same. Like for the most part, like all the important beats and everything. Um, oh, that was another fun thing. Apparently, um, I guess the big boss, like how I said Christopher Walken was like one of the head, like the second in command, like of the mafia guys or whatever. Apparently, the big guy up top, who does get mentioned by name, but we never actually see him. Apparently, that character was supposed to be played by Robert De Niro, and he was going to have like maybe a couple scenes or something, kind of like Christopher Walken only had the one scene, so maybe Robert De Niro was just going to get one or two scenes as well. But apparently, they didn't want the movie to go any longer. It was already kind of long, so they're like, let's just not have it. It's not really needed. So it got trimmed down, and then Robert De Niro read it, and he's like, well, it sounds like I barely even need to be in this movie, so I'm just gonna bow out. So Robert De Niro bowed out, and then they were gonna get I think his name is Robert Forster. Is that it? The guy from Alligator and Foxy Brown. Yeah, that's it. Robert Forster. Yeah, that's it. Just want to make sure. Apparently, they were going to get him, but then they ended up just cutting the role entirely. But what's funny about that is both Robert Forster and Robert De Niro, who were both going to play this, big, mafia boss guy, went on to work together on Jackie Brown, another Quentin Tarantino directed movie, Quentin Tarantino movie or whatever. So they ended up both being in Jackie Brown. So I thought that was interesting too. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Because I love Robert Forster and Robert De Niro. Both excellent actors. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And Jackie Brown's also a great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check that out. Samuel L. Jackson's in it too. I mean, great movie. And Pam Grier, obviously, she plays Jackie Brown. She's amazing. But yeah, this movie just has so many cool things. The final shootout scene, they said the hardest part about that final shootout scene was they're like, how do we actually get who's going to shoot first? How do we get this whole thing rolling? And apparently, somebody came up with the idea to like we'll just throw hot coffee in the guy's face who was undercover, and then the cop would react because obviously the dude who got hit with the coffee is burning his face off and all that. So then the cop would react and he would shoot the guy, and then they'd all just start shooting because the whole end scene. I'm assuming people who are watching this have probably seen the movie, but maybe not. The whole end scene when they're making this big drug deal at the end, you know, because all Clarence and Alabama want to do is just offload those drugs. They just want $200,000. The drugs are worth way more than that, what they have, but they just want that money just so they can go and do their own thing. So they just want to offload it. And they're about to make the deal, but there's the FBI's there. They have an undercover person. You got the mob guys who know exactly where they are in the hotel because they talked to Floyd, you know, played by Brad Pitt's character, and everybody's just coming together right now. And the guy gets hit with the coffee, you know, for being a narc, and then they just have this big shootout that goes down. It's really cool, very, very, bloody and just this crazy, very frenetic, shootout, and people are just getting blown away left and right, and you got machine guns and shotguns and pistols and blood's flying everywhere. And, Clarence gets shot in the eye, like I said, and Alabama's like, oh no, da, da, da. And it's just crazy. And obviously, they leave you in suspense for a little bit. You think Clarence is dead, and then he's like, and he, has the breath, and he wakes up, and they kind of just walk right out. They just, because the cops who are all there are all dead, so they just grab the bag with all the money, and they just kind of walk out past, because people, the cop, the other people out there, the officers and the medical people who are like surrounding the bill, they're like trying to help other people and take care, and they kind of just stroll off, get in their car, and go, and I just thought that was a nice ending. And then it shows them at the end, and they're on the beach, and they have a kid, and apparently the kid, the little boy that's there with them, is actually Patricia Arquette's son in real life. So I thought that was really neat too. I was like, oh, that's cool. She got her son in there. He's just a little baby or whatever. He's like a little kid. He's like a few years old or whatever, and she got him in there. So that was cool. And the whole movie, I mean, it's just great. I can't really think of any flaws. Apparently there's a director's cut. I'm gonna watch that next. And I do want to watch the commentaries and all that stuff. Because I heard the commentary track for this is really great, very entertaining, and I just wanted to kind of give my thoughts on the movie. I just thought it would be interesting to talk about it. I just thought it would be fun to kind of pick apart some of the scenes and just kind of walk through it and talk about the movie. I think I hit all the big notes. I know when they go to the amusement park and they're riding on the roller coaster. Apparently in Quentin Tarantino's script, that was actually supposed to be a zoo, but Tony Scott thought it would be more energetic, to go shoot at a theme park and have him on a roller coaster. But Michael Rappaport's character, the friend to Clarence, who's introducing him to the producer, director guy who's going to buy the drugs, apparently he suffers from motion sickness big time. So the whole time they're shooting this roller coaster scene, he's just getting sick, and they're filming shots of him when he's fine. They're filming these shots where he's just like super sick and he just looks awful and all this stuff. So it's just really funny. You kind of feel bad for poor Michael Rappaport, because he's just like, he had, what are you going to do? I mean, a job's a job or whatever. So it's like, if they tell you to get on the roller coaster, you're getting on the roller coaster. But it's like, oh God, I couldn't imagine suffering from motion sickness and then being told you have to go on a roller coaster. And, in order to film all those shots, they probably had to go on that roller coaster God only knows how many times, So it's like, oh, man. But Christian Slater's character, I love that whole angle of him having, like, this voice in his head telling him to kind of do something. I kind of wish that they almost played into that a little bit more, kind of like his psychosis. I like that angle. It was kind of dark, but it was only a couple times. And honestly, the only time he really went full psycho was in that opening scene where he goes to Driscoll, the pimp guy. And after that, he hears him again, but it's not like crazy talk. It's just whatever. It's not telling him to go do anything crazy or anything, but I just thought, I love that idea, I'm like, ooh, God, I kind of wish they had explored that more, because I love that whole idea, that whole concept. That's great. I'm trying to think. I think that's about it I think those are all the key points. I'm just going through the list here, and making sure I didn't miss any cool character moments. You know, Samuel L. Jackson is in this movie for like a split second. He has a couple lines. Maybe in the director's cut, he has a little bit more to do. I don't know. But in the theatrical, he literally just has a couple lines and then he gets killed off right at the beginning. So it was like, you know. But there's so many good actors and actresses in this movie, man. It's insane. I mean, Tom Sizemore, he plays one of the FBI agents. You know, he's great. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how many good actors are in this movie. I'm like, good lord. Chris Penn plays the other FBI agent. He's excellent. And just so many good actors. Just goes on and on. Paul Bates, I think he was the bodyguard to Driscoll. You know, he was in Coming to America. You know, he's really good. So many good actors. I mean, it's nuts. I saw the box and I was looking at it. I'm like, oh my, all these people are in here. Holy crap. And a lot of them just have small roles. Like Brad Pitt's role is really small as Floyd, Christopher Walken, just one scene, but they're all memorable. Dennis Hopper, only a couple scenes, but they're all very memorable. Every character gets their time to shine for sure. I think that's it. It's very well shot. Tony Scott did a great job with the directing. It's funny because it's shot like, the first, it's set in like Detroit in the opening. That's where like, Clarence and Alabama are from. They're in Detroit, so they're in Michigan, and then they travel to LA. So it goes from like this kind of like cold, bleak atmosphere in Michigan, to then very happy and sunny and like this, like da, 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 like when they get to LA. And I like that, I like that like kind of juxtaposition, I like that. So that was really cool. Very good, cinematography, directing. I think the unrated cut, I have a feeling, or the director's cut or whatever, I have a feeling it's going to be bloodier too. Because you could tell they left in a good amount of gore in this movie, but you could tell it's probably gorier. Because you just, when you watch as many like action horror movies as I have, and I'm sure you guys have too, you can kind of tell when like it's edited a certain way to where they don't want to show like too much of the blood or too much of the gore and stuff. They do like kind of quick cuts and quick edits and all that kind of stuff. And even though it's like I said, very bloody, very gory, I think there's more. I guarantee in the director's cut it's probably even more brutal, especially that last shootout sequence. Like that, I know that's got to be way more brutal. That was another factoid. Apparently they wanted to use, because Clarence, is like infatuated with Elvis Presley, and that's part of his character. And apparently the director wanted to use some songs of Elvis Presley's, but I guess the family's estate, the people that own basically Elvis's music and all that stuff, I guess they didn't want to let these guys use any songs that Elvis Presley made, so they couldn't use any of them. So they had to just they couldn't use any. So I was like, oh, that's kind of shitty. That's too bad, because that's like he loves Elvis in the movie, and it's like, damn, they wouldn't let him use a single song. That's too bad. Would have been cool to hear a little bit of Elvis Presley throughout the movie, But I think the score is pretty good anyway. I'm trying to, I don't know. It must be pretty subtle. I'll have to go back. I've only watched it once, but I think it was a pretty good score. It was just kind of subtle. And I think that's about it. I think I've covered just about everything. Sorry, this was a little long-winded. I know. I'm sure most people aren't even gonna watch this or whatever. I just want to kind of give my thoughts on it. I haven't really done like a movie review / discussion, whatever. So I just kind of wanted to do it for fun. This is Anthony's Horror More. Please tell me, do you love True Romance? Did I forget any fun facts? You know anything about the movie that maybe I forgot to mention? The car in the movie is really cool too. I forgot about the car. They were a really nice car as well. Yeah, which is, you know, right there. Nice car. This classic car right there. But yeah, you know, leave comments down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, um, and comment. You know, all that stuff. You know, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts on True Romance are. You know, do you think it's a little overrated? Do you think it's underrated? Or do you think it's like kind of right there? I'm just so glad that I discovered it. You know, I'm glad Arrow came out with this box set because it gave me a chance to like really dive into it. You know, I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity to watch this movie because it's got a beautiful set. This is perfect, you know. Oh, and that's the other thing. The transfer looked really good too. Transfer looked great. You know, I was really impressed with just the whole thing. I mean, you know, it still had like a little bit of that grain to it and that grit, you know, that like classic film kind of look, or you know what I mean, like that, you know, that 90s kind of look or whatever. Like I loved the way it was shot and everything too. So, but yeah, please tell me what you think, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.